This customer had tried doing a tire rotation himself, but had to come in because he chose the hard way instead of the easy way. And this car had miraculously managed to pass a safety inspection just a month ago, and came in to finally have some new brake rotors installed. This guy had prepared his Jeep for some off-roading and came in to make sure everything looked alright. Customer came in really worried, saying that he thinks the engine has a major oil leak somewhere because the dipstick is completely bone dry. Turned out to be a broken dipstick tube. Ah, nothing beats bushings made out of some good old Adidas slides. Customer states, car sounds like a giant mosquito that had too much Taco Bell. The owner of this car came in because they had a rattling sound when driving, after their friend had fixed a bad engine mount for them in a pretty interesting way. The owner of this car had come in to ask the mechanics how much it would cost to repair one of her rear wheels, but when she heard the price, she just took off. This customer had installed a roof rack on his car, all by himself, but had to come in because he now had a strange sound when driving on the highway. This customer had tried to install the wrong sized lug nuts and had to come into the shop because he couldn't get them loose. Customer states, running boards on my truck have been acting all crazy since I started driving my fat stepson to school every morning. Please advise. Customer states, metallic pops coming from front when turning. Customer states, I'll bring my own parts. Customer said that he fixed his broken steering by himself 2 weeks ago, but that he'd done it in a rush and now had a clunking sound, and this is what the mechanic found. And this customer's favorite show is apparently Pimp My Ride. And when your new sway bar links are literally swaying. It's probably best to come into the shop. This utility truck got towed into the shop after the driver had backed over a concrete roadblock when trying to back out of a tight alleyway. Yep, looks good. Customer came in because they had a strange sound from their front wheels at all speeds, ever since a friend of theirs had renovated their front suspension using only the cheapest parts they could find from Alibaba. And this car came in after it had started to run pretty rough after a recent oil change at a quick lube shop. Turns out that they were so fast that they had put washer fluid in the engine instead of engine oil. This Honda CR-V was brought in by the customer after they tried installing a tow hitch by themselves, using some chains and parts they found at a local hardware store. And this car rolled in with some starting issues after the owner had tried squeezing an extra 20 horsepower out of the engine in his very own special way. Customer came in saying that they installed new belts a couple weeks back, but thinks he must have tightened them a bit too hard because the car now refuses to start. This car came in with a wobbly steering wheel after the driver had hit a high curbside. And this car didn't come in a minute too soon to get new brakes installed. The owner of this Mitsubishi came in saying that their car made a loud sound and came to a sudden stop after they had installed a timing belt together with a friend. When your oil change looks like this, you better pray the insurance gods go easy on you. This customer came in complaining about really squeaky brakes ever since they apparently got it fixed at a different shop. Customer states, starting issues. The mechanics discovered that the customer had installed a wiring harness by himself and had removed the fuse box in the process, but had forgotten to reinstall it afterwards. Customer states, car has started to smell funkier than normal. Please advise. The owner of this truck rolled in to get a suspension noise fixed and to get an oil change when the mechanic noticed that the customer had done some pretty questionable work on the frame by himself. This BMW rolled in after the owner said it had started to lean heavily to one side after hitting a speed bump going 50 miles an hour. And this truck had turned itself into a steam train. This truck came in after the owner said that one of his wheels had rolled past him on the highway and that he speeded after it before it got away. This car came in with a broken camshaft after the customer had just upgraded from a stock camshaft but had over-tightened the cam bolts and also kept the engine at 7,500 RPM for longer than recommended while benching the car on a dyno. This car came in after the owner said that it had started to run rough and feel sluggish at all speeds and wanted it looked at. Turns out they hadn't changed the oil in over 38,000 miles. The owner of this SUV rolled in saying that it doesn't want to shut off and thinks there might be an electrical issue. Turned out to be a 5-minute job for the mechanic. Customer states, raced a friend at a stoplight. He won. This mechanic was detailing this customer's car when he found that the customer had left him a little snack under the back seat. Customer states, car has a misfire and is idling really rough. Please advise. The owner of this car came in because they said it ran rough. The mechanics asked the customer when they last had an oil change and the customer just replied that he didn't know. And this car had quite the transmission leak. And this car came in with a unique and pretty perpendicular exhaust system. This car had lots of smoke coming out of the engine bay and it turned out to be a pretty annoying coolant leak from one of the heater hoses. And the owner of this Ford Maverick rolled in saying, brakes have been getting louder and louder the past few months and I'm not exactly sure why. Please check and advise. Customer states, very hard to get the car in gear. Yeah, sure looks like it, bud. This truck came in for a post-purchase inspection after the owner had paid over $13,000 for it. Yikes. And this customer had a really wobbly steering wheel after she had pumped up her tire at a local gas station with what she thought was an air pump, but turned out being a CO2 extinguisher that looked nearly identical to the air pumps at the station. This customer came in complaining about a whining noise during acceleration. This car had quite the leaking problem and the mechanics found that the customer had hit something on the road that had pierced a hole through the gas tank, which someone had tried fixing with some duct tape. And this guy came in with his car saying he hit a duck on his way to work. And this Toyota Highlander rolled into the shop because the engine light was on, it had horrible gas mileage, and the owner had a thick oily smell in the driver's cab. The mechanics found that the oil hadn't been changed in over 88,000 miles, which was about 9 years ago, but the customer claimed that he did in fact do regular oil changes every year. The owner of this car had saved a bit on car repairs and parts throughout the years, and this is what the mechanics found. This mechanic was just replacing the brake rotors on this customer's car when he noticed a strange little device in the windshield. Upon inspection, it turned out to be a 4-port Twinkle RGB-W Meteor ceiling car roof shooting star light LED fiber optic light starry sky lamp ARP music remote control. And this customer came in for their first water pump replacement in 25 years. Customer came in with their car saying that the transmission had stopped working all of a sudden while they were at a McDonald's drive-thru. The mechanics found the transmission to be totally wrecked, and the customer ended up getting a new one installed through their insurance company. And this customer came in saying that his car makes a strange loud sound when accelerating and wanted it looked at. This customer rolled in with their BMW saying their gear stick rattles like crazy. The mechanics replaced the rubber shifter bushings and it fixed the issue. This customer had been to the shop and declined all repairs, but had to come in 2 hours later because they had heard a loud pop while driving and now had no choice but to get new tires. Talk about instant karma. Customer rolled in with an overheated engine after he had attempted to replace the head gasket by himself a few days before, and this is what the technician found. Customer came in saying, "My nephew's a newly graduated electrician and he did some work on my car, but now it won't start. Please advise." Customer states, changed wipers himself, but now they get stuck in the middle of the windshield. Customer states, hit a large memory foam pillow on the freeway while on my way to work. Please check and advise. This customer rolled in with their car because they had some major brake issues after their friend had helped them renovate the brake lines, and this is the mess that the mechanics found. Customer states, my gas mileage is terrible. Could you please do something about it? And this customer came in saying that their cabin fan is really noisy and that the cabin also smells like a forest. And this guy rolled in with his fully crewed Jeep ready to conquer the 7 seas. This car came in with a bit of a rattle after the customer had installed an exhaust system in their very own way. And this truck was brought in on a tow truck with a broken differential after the customer lost a tug war to his buddy's F450. This customer had taken his car off-roading in the desert, but it had overheated so badly that the dipstick had started to melt and caused the engine to stall. And this truck rolled in for its yearly oil and filter change with a missing tire and a pretty messed up wheel well. When asked about what had happened, the customer just replied, "I went to Vegas for the weekend, but the rest is a bit blurry." This car came in looking like this after the owner said they hit a large soda can while on their way to work. A soda can, huh? Customer states, tire leak after hitting a piece of wood on their driveway. And this customer said that he had a few holes in his car but that he'd taken care of it already and just wanted a tire rotation. And this customer came in with their semi-truck after they had started hearing a loud whirring sound when driving at highway speeds. Turns out that the lug nuts on one of the wheels hadn't been tightened properly, which had caused the wheel bearing to give up, and it was just sheer luck that the wheel hadn't fallen off completely. And the owner of this car came in saying, car was supposed to go but instead just went Boeing. This car came in as the customer suspected he either had a rock in one of his wheels or an engine knock. But this is what the mechanics found. This truck rolled in because the owner said that the cabin fan randomly shuts itself off and the low beams flickers a lot. The mechanics found the trailer hitch all beat up. This customer came in complaining about a rattling sound at higher speeds after their friend had done some work on their car. The owner of this car came in complaining about a loud whining noise from the transmission, and when the mechanics went to drain the transmission fluid, they got 15 quarts in total out of it. This customer came in because they had a loud clunking sound when driving, after they had some engine work done at a different shop. The owner of this car had just changed brake pads at a local gas station, but had to pull over because his brakes had started to smoke. Turns out that he accidentally installed the brake pads backwards. This Toyota pickup came in for an oil change when the mechanics noticed that it was a bit crowded in the cab. This car was in for a tire rotation, but when the mechanic went to sit in it, he found this. Luckily, the shop's intern took one for the team and drove the car into the shop. And the owner of this car came in saying that he wants new brakes installed but didn't mention anything about this. The customer ended up taking the car to a different shop as he got upset when the mechanics told him there's nothing they could do for him. This customer had a broken drive shaft on his car, so he got a bit creative with it, but rolled into the shop on a tow truck because he wasn't creative enough. This car rolled in with some rattling sounds after the customer had let their grandson borrow the car for a week. And this tire rolled in all screwed up. The owner of this car had let their uncle, who's apparently a retired hobby mechanic, install a custom-built sport exhaust system for them. And this customer came in saying that they have a strange thump whenever they turn right, ever since their wife borrowed the car to go grocery shopping the other day. The owner of this car had just completed a welding course and had decided to build his very own exhaust system, but had to come into the shop 2 weeks later because he said it's way too loud. Customer states, coolant level warning light keeps coming on. Has been refilling coolant every 2 to 3 days, but problem still remains. The mechanic found one of the heater hoses that transport coolant to the cabin's heater core to be the main culprit. This car rolled in like this after the owner's uncle had helped them install a new parking brake. This customer brought in their extra crusty, rusted out truck for some brake work, and this is what it looked like underneath. Customer states, "What do you mean I need new tires? They look just fine to me." And this customer came in with a weird sound coming from their wheels after they hit a curbside and tried repairing the damage by themselves. The customer eventually ended up scrapping the car because it was cheaper than repairing it. This customer had recently refurbished their brake rotors and got a new brake pads installed at another shop, but they had ignored doing anything about the rusty brake shields, which had ended up causing some damage to the inside of the rims. This car came in for an oil change, but the mechanic flat out refused to work on it as soon as he saw the state of the interior. These mechanics were just lifting this Audi Q7 to do an oil change on it when they got a little surprise. Apparently, the owner had recently replaced the driver's side airbag at a different local garage because they were trying to get the airbag light to turn off, but had damaged the wiring sockets in the process, which caused the airbag to deploy. The owner of this SUV came in saying that they were on their way to get some groceries when they suddenly heard a loud metallic pop, but had just kept driving until they lost almost all power. This car came in to get a new tire repair kit, but when the mechanics opened the trunk, they found that a mouse had turned the old repair kit into his home. Customer states, "Slammed the brakes pretty hard and heard a clunk sound. Could you make sure it's nothing serious?" The owner of this car said that they have a minor leak from their radiator, but that they'd use some stop leak to fix it temporarily. Yeah, I don't think that's doing much for you, bud. This car came in for a post-purchase inspection after the previous owner had stated that it was almost like new underneath and that it didn't have any major leaks. This car rolled in after the customer said that he had been driving it to work in the morning when he noticed the engine temperature gradually creeping up. Turned out that another shop recently changed coolant hoses but hadn't secured one of them properly, so it had slipped off and caused almost all the coolant to leak out. The owner of this car had installed a used wheel bearing from a scrap car together with his cousin, but came in on a tow truck 4 days later after the wheel bearing had failed. Pretty instant karma right there. And this customer came in needing 4 new rims and tires after they claimed to have hit a light post that had fallen down on the road while they were going 90 miles an hour. And this customer had made and installed a cat anti-theft system together with their father-in-law. The owner of this truck came in with a giant hole in the undercarriage, transmission, and oil pan after they had picked up a friend from a local gun store who had bought a used hunting rifle that had accidentally gone off while they were driving. And this guy came in saying that he had a minor vibration in the steering wheel. And this mechanic is definitely used to working in sticky situations. Sport, baby, sport. This mechanic was about to change some shocks that the customer had brought in themselves, but it turned out that the shocks weren't actually the same. This customer was in with their Jeep after it had started telling too many knock-knock jokes. Customerstates had starting problems but fixed it himself, wants mechanic to make sure everything looks good. This customer didn't have too much money but wanted to go traveling with his wife, so he built his own camper van and was now in to have the brakes checked. The mechanics advised him not to go on long trips with it, as some of the welds on the frame were pretty bad, amongst other things. And this car came in looking like this, after the customer said that they hit their driveway curb a bit faster than normal. The owner of this truck was in because they had been towing it behind their RV and had left it in reverse, which ended up wrecking the transmission and much of the drivetrain. And apparently this car came with a built-in bubble machine. The owner of this truck was in because they had a random clunking sound ever since their buddy had done some frame repair work for them. And this customer came in with his project car that he had apparently invested over $15,000 in, but now it refused to start and he couldn't figure out why. And nope, this is not the key to Davy Jones' locker. It's actually the key that you use to change safety belts. This Toyota 4Runner came in with some starting issues after the owner had done some work on the battery, all by himself. This customer came in with their truck after they accidentally put over 100 psi each in their rear tires. The owner of this car said that his car has started to accelerate really poorly ever since he performed an oil change on it 10 days before. And this vehicle came in for its first oil change in 68,000 miles. The owner of this car came in because they had problems with the transmission being very noisy after another shop had tried repairing a leak with some JB Weld. Customer states, "Grandma borrowed my car for a week, but when I got it back it smelled weird and was really hard to get in gear. Please check and advise." Customer states, "Drove home from a barbecue party last night and thinks he hit something because he has scraping sounds at all speeds. Turned out to be a piece of guardrail." This car came in because the owner said it had started to clunk a lot. The owner of this car rolled in saying that they had their car in for an oil change at another local garage, but that they've had a rattling sound ever since. The mechanic found that it was because someone had dumped a bunch of cookies inside the engine bay. Customer came in complaining about their car handling like a boat full of watermelons at all speeds. Customer came in saying that he wants to order new brake rotors, brake calipers, and brake pads because he recently failed a safety inspection due to bad brakes, and this is what the mechanic found. Now, if you have any idea of what the hell is going on here, please let us know in the comments below. This car had a total engine failure after the customer had been driving it almost completely without oil for over 6 months. And the owner of this truck had apparently left it parked on the wrong side of town for over a week. This car was in because the owner had attempted to do a front-end adjustment by himself, using some tools he'd gotten off of a Chinese website for cheap. But the instructions were in Chinese, so the customer had just improvised instead, which ended up costing him new control arms and ball joints. This truck rolled in on a tow truck because it had major starting issues, some rod knock and whining sounds from the transmission. The mechanics found all this engine oil in the transmission, and it turned out that the customer had an oil leak from the oil filter, and because of that they'd been topping up the engine oil, but had accidentally used the transmission dipstick tube to do it. This mechanic was changing the axle shaft on this truck and had to get a bit creative to get it out of there, because the garage he was in had the car lift installed pretty close to a wall. And if your engine ever looks like this, hopefully you've got some good insurance. Engine 1, customer's wallet 0. This car came in because it had some starting issues after the owner had done some work on it together with his friend. The mechanic found the ignition connectors super glued to the coils and had to install a completely new harness. This car rolled in because the customer complained about really loud clunks when driving, and the mechanics found the right upper strut mount to be pretty much non-existent. This customer had apparently done some brake work on their car, all by themselves, but apparently got hit with some instant karma and had to come in the next day to have it fixed. The owner of this Lambo came in for a new windshield because a semi-truck that had been in front of them had a rim break loose and split into two pieces before crashing into the customer's windshield. Customer came in saying that they've gone through 4 batteries in 2 weeks, and the car still doesn't hold a charge. I wonder why. When coolant starts coming out of places that it shouldn't, it's probably best to call your local mechanic. And this car came in with a handful of different problems and somehow even drove in like this. The owner said that she only knows how to fill it up with gas and drive it. The owner of this car came in because their turbo sounded strange and the car seemed sluggish. The customer also said that they had recently fixed a rattling sound that came from the air filter by putting a furniture pad on top of it. The mechanics discovered that the furniture pad had gotten sucked into the turbo, which had caused all the issues. This SUV came in after the customer had hit a speed bump that looked smaller than it actually was. Customer came in complaining about a clunking sound when going over speed bumps and that the car felt unsafe to drive, ever since another shop had done some welding work on the strut mounts 2 weeks ago to fix some rust. This Holden came in with quite the oil leak after the customer had tried fixing it himself using some silicone. This car rolled in with a destroyed engine after the timing belt broke. The customer had refused to have it replaced when he was in for his yearly service 3 weeks prior, claiming that timing belts are actually made to last longer than what's stated by the manufacturer. Not sure if this is a dump or someone's home. What do you think? And this Camaro came in for an oil change when the mechanic noticed that the customer had done some custom mods on it. Customer came in saying that she's had a strange scent when driving longer distances, and once on the lift the mechanic discovered that the entire undercarriage was covered in white. And this customer came in saying, "Did my first oil change, but car now sounds like a rattlesnake. Please advise." This car rolled in with a totaled front-end suspension after the owner had hit a pothole going over 100 miles per hour, saying that they didn't see the hole because it was covered by a piece of cardboard. This guy came in with his car saying that the steering wheel has started to wobble a lot ever since he installed larger wheels together with his younger brother. Customer came in with a broken AMG rim from his vintage Mercedes, asking if the shop wanted to trade him for a newer one, since the rim was apparently pretty rare to come by these days. The shop owner politely rejected the customer's generous offer. This car came in for a pre-purchase inspection when the mechanic noticed that the airbag light was on, and this is what he discovered. And this customer came in saying that their truck has started to run hot. The mechanics found the oil looking like pea soup and the head gasket to be done for. And this customer came in saying, "But a little bit of smoke is alright, right?" This car was in because the battery kept draining itself and the right side tail lights and license plate lights didn't work at all. The mechanic discovered that the customer recently had installed a new muffler by himself, but one of the holding brackets were broken, so he just bolted the muffler straight onto the undercarriage and pierced right through a wiring harness. Customer states, "Does this mean I now have a rat rod?" This car came in after the owner said he had speeded through a red light when he suddenly heard a loud boink sound. Talk about some instant karma right there. This customer rolled into the shop with a major oil leak after a neighbor had borrowed their car to move some stuff from their garage, but forgot to mention that the garage was out in the middle of nowhere. And this customer had let their stepson change their oil and filter, but now had a bit of a leak. Customer states, "Drove through what looked like a little puddle, but damn thing near swallowed the whole truck." This car rolled in with its engine pretty much swimming in oil after the customer recently had a couple of new gaskets and oil filter installed at a quick fix repair shop.